Welcome back to episode 159 of Chess Journeys, Tales of Adult Improvement. Here on Chess Journeys, we love to explore the glories of ratings gain, which I think our guest is going to talk about today, but we also dive into the plateaus and perhaps below that, the pits of despair. I hope that's not you. I want to thank our supporters on Patreon, our Queen level supporters, and if you want to go there, you can support the show as well. I want to thank Tim Everett, Scott D4B6 Joe, Matt Bush, Jay Garrison, Donna Rich Burgess, Brandon Hallside, Jeff Peterson, Tobias Rex, Bob Berger, Nicholas Harrigan, Rich, Bradley Fender, Fletcher Ray, Nathan Peterson, Christian Glaw, Andrew Rimmer, Travel Mocha, Mohammed Ibrahim, Vazanath, and King level supporter Ian Samples. If you want to appear on the show, you fill out the Google form in the show notes. We do all want to hear your story. That's where I got my guest from today. And if you're interested in chess improvement, Noel Studer's programs are a great way to do it. And we also have a sponsor for this show this week. We've got chessbook.com. This is a great tool to help you build and learn your chess openings. What makes this tool unique is its goal to minimize the number of lines that you need to learn, prioritizing only the most common moves that you will see at your level. Once you've entered or imported your repertoire into the system, it will compare it to your games on Lichess and chess.com to instantly show you where you've been going wrong and help you train on those lines. And just to be clear, I was looking at that just today. It says I'm playing 300 points below my ELO with one variation of the Caro-Kann. So you know what I'm going to do after this interview is over? I'm going to go work on that opening and fix that problem. All right. I am working on a new white repertoire, and I put my lines into chessbook.com the other day to help me choose the most common responses to my opponent's moves. And within just a few minutes, I had a manageable version of my repertoire. What really impresses me is that when I put it in my repertoire, chessbook.com also showed me the future moves with arrows and plans, which made me feel good, like, ooh, okay, now I know where I'm going after this. And some other cool features I want to mention are model games for your openings and the ability to add pre-made openings from sources like Gotham Chess, Eric Rosen, and my favorite YouTube opening guy, Hanging Pawns. I find the model games to be really useful. Just today, I was looking at that Caro-Kann opening that it said I was struggling with, and there was just a button there. Hey, do you want to see a model game of how someone played it better than you? So that was amazing. So what's best, though, is that it's free to try for up to the first 200 moves. After that, if you fall in love with this tool, you can use the code SKULL20 for a 20% discount on a pro account for unlimited moves. If you're like me and looking to get more from your openings with less study time, then chessbook.com may be just the tool you're looking for. Okay, enough with the promotions for great tools. Let's bring in our guest today. We have Marc. He's an adult improver with a passion for OTB chess and building chess communities. He's made huge rating gains in a small amount of time, so we're very eager to hear his story. Marc, welcome to the show. And have you had a chance to play any chess yet today?
Well, it depends. I stayed up last night past midnight, so but since I've woken up, I have not played any chess.
Okay. All right. And what's your middle of the night time control?
I've been playing, well, I was streaming, and so I was playing game 5. I normally like to play game 3, no delay,
Oh,
but when I'm streaming, I give myself a couple minutes to make comments and draw arrows and whatnot.
gotcha. So 3-0, do you find that to be good for chess improvement, or is that more for like that's just a time control you have fun with?
It's just more for fun, entertainment.
Okay. So you don't find yourself flagging people over the board that often?
Oh no, I do.
Oh, you
Over the
do?
board, I mean, I consider myself a pretty good over the board blitz player.
Okay,
And
okay,
game 3, I think helps.
okay, gotcha. Yeah, I play some game 5-0 over the board, and it's terrible for me because I only play with increment. And
Oh,
so when I go over the board and play 5-0, I lose almost every game, even if I'm winning. My opponent will be shocked. They'll be like, "Why did you just run out of time?" And I'm like, "I don't know. It wasn't enough time. What do you want from me?" Okay. Do you have a time control that you do play online when you're in more of an improvement mindset?
um, for a tournament, I'll play game 10 leading up to that.
Mhm.
Or sometimes I'll play, I don't know if you can see in my background, I play on these electronic chess boards, and when I play on those, I'll play like game 15 with an increment just because moving the pieces takes more time.
Okay. So is that Is that how you prefer to play like rapid, is to use your electronic chessboard and do it that way? Or is that just like if you're getting ready for an OTB event?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, I don't like rapid online chess at all, really, because I just don't want to spend that much time on one game unless I'm getting rated for it, basically. And but with the if I'm doing tournament prep, I like to be over the board just to get like in the three-dimensional mindset. And so playing in those electronic chess boards is like my way of preparing.
Okay. It sounds to me like you've got like this really sharp division between like tournament prep and then just the rest of the time you're playing. Because it sounds like 3-0, you're saying I do it for fun. It's not, a great time control for improvement. I don't know what you think about 10-0. We can talk about that in a moment. What caused you to have this mindset of like when I get ready for tournaments, it's one thing. When I'm just playing and for other things, I go a whole nother route.
I think this is a good question that I think not enough people are like trying to answer specifically. So what I'm trying to get at is people are trying to improve. What I don't think they're doing is being focused enough when they're doing their improvement.
Mhm.
And what happened was when my daughter was born, I had to be a lot more strategic with my time. So I realized that if I'm spending time on chess, it needs to be for like a very specific reason. And so just like general improvement wasn't really a thing anymore. I couldn't just like study whatever I wanted whenever I wanted. I
Mhm.
had to be like, all right, I have 30 minutes. I'm gonna spend my time only for entertainment. I'm not thinking about improvement. Or if I have a tournament coming up and I only have 30 minutes, I'm gonna say, well, I'm gonna play a game 10. That gives me, it's like a dedicate 20 minutes to an actual game, 10 minutes analyzing. And so like I try to have anytime I'm spending time on chess, I'm trying to be very specific about like what I'm trying to accomplish during that time.
Okay, I like it. I think some people would be tempted to say like, well, why ever choose just entertainment? Aren't you trying to get better, Mark? Shouldn't you always be improving? What might be your response to that?
Well, I thought I actually submitted this request to be on here and to be tagged as a chess non-improver or adult non-improver
Oh,
because
okay.
I I want to try to get people in the mindset that there's so much more to chess than just improvement.
Mm.
Um, and so I think that enjoying the game is just as valid as trying to increase. And I also think when people are like so hyper focused on rating gains, they like their value as a chess player is attached to that. And so when they don't have any rating gains, or if they even lose some points, then they feel like their value diminishes or they just are not valuable. And so I think that's just like a link that doesn't need to exist.
Okay. I think that's remarkable. I think so many people have such a hard time with that, right? It's like if I'm going to put time into this thing, then I want to see that magical number go up.
Yeah.
Whereas like it's just so interesting because like I used to play pickup basketball and there was no number, right? So it was just about the love of playing basketball. But after each of those games, if some guy had been watching, like, hey, your elo dropped 6 points, you missed a couple points there, I probably would have approached those games in a very different way. And so it's kind of fascinating to take this idea that you're saying and just be like, just enjoy chess. Your rating doesn't matter. Like if you're a super GM, it matters, but for most of us, our rating doesn't matter at all. Any other pieces of advice to help people try to say your rating doesn't matter?
Well, I think people also need to understand what chess rating means. Because people see their rating and like I'm about a 1650 player, and they think that you're playing at a 1650 level strength. And I don't think that's what that means. I think your chess rating is really a measure of your worst moves.
Interesting.
So here's what I'm trying to talk about is like if you look at someone's puzzle rating, it's usually very, very high. It's because people know they can see good tactics, they know how to play good moves. Most of the time they're playing really good moves, but then their playing rating is much lower because what wins and loses, well, actually, what loses a game are your worst moves. Your
Yeah.
best moves don't actually win games on the spot, but a losing move will lose the game on the spot.
Wow, that's such a really interesting way to put that, that your rating is a measurement of your worst moves. I like that. Um, I think that's one reason why some people talk about trying to raise your floor, right? Like trying to get the basics down even more and more so you make better worst moves, I guess would be the way I would put that.
Yeah.
Okay. What I think is fascinating about you is that you both made a ton of ratings gain in a very short amount of time, which puts you into like that desired category of improvers where everyone wants to be you and get a lot of rating points quick. But then you're also like, rating points don't matter. I just play 3-0 for fun. It's fine. So I think that's a very interesting combination. I guess let's jump back to the beginning, try to trace how you improved, and then talk about how you've internalized that and what you've done from that. Does that sound good?
Yeah, that
All
sounds
right.
good.
So let's jump back to the beginning. Let's go back to your childhood. Did you play at all? Were you a young prodigy?
Not a young prodigy. I learned probably late elementary school, and it was just a board game like anything else. I
Hmm.
did like it a lot, but I wasn't playing in scholastics tournaments or even joining clubs. The only thing that I would say was maybe a little bit different was that when I would go to the library, occasionally I would get like a chess puzzle book
Hmm.
because I found those fascinating. I never studied openings or anything like that, but I think I just ran across a puzzle book one time. I'm like, oh, I like these puzzles. I can spend, a couple of minutes and try to figure it out and just move on.
That's
And then I really didn't play. I think sometime in high school, I ended up joining the school chess club just to have something on my resume because I just didn't have anything on there. And so I joined and played for fun. And I guess the coach thought that I was like good enough to play in a tournament because if you
nice.
look at my USCF, I've got like one tournament in my senior year of high school where I ended up with a rating, but I
Okay.
have no idea. I didn't have a um, I wasn't notating or anything like that. I don't remember my opening. I just
Mhm.
showed up, played some games, and ended up with like an 800 rating.
That's pretty cool. Okay, so and you don't remember this at all? It's like when you looked at USCF, were you surprised to even see that there was a tournament there, or had you remembered like, oh, that's right, I played in that tournament. I just don't remember much about it.
It wasn't a surprise. I remember it happened. It wasn't like a big deal. It was just like something I showed
Yeah.
up for and
Okay.
did.
Okay. Cool. Wasn't like a traumatic moment where like 5, 6 year olds in a row beat you and you were like, never again.
No, I think it was just kind of normal.
Okay.
That, well, I mean, there's the traumatic moments happened at the age of 31 when all those 5 and 6 year olds would beat me.
But now you're an adult and you could handle it so much better because you're so mature. That
Yeah,
must be
I
sweet.
guess so.
Okay. So you're a high school player, very briefly, you got to 800, and then did you drop it for a long time or did you play here and there?
Yeah, that was pretty much it. I mean, like I said, I wasn't even serious in as a senior in high school. It was just like a let me show up once a week. And then
Mhm.
I just didn't play any chess until age of 31.
Okay. Wow. That is a big gap there. Okay, so you come back as a 31-year-old. Uh where do you start?
Well, I think I went straight to YouTube,
Okay.
basically. Just went to YouTube, looked up, how to get better at chess. And at that time, there were less resources. And so Um, I was also doing things like going and getting some books. That was a thing back then. You could go get some chess books.
I still do that.
Yeah. Um, but I think what I did also right away was try to find a place to play chess in person. So
Ah,
I didn't lurk online. Like I know a lot of people,
yeah.
they get back into chess, they start to do a bunch of online chess, but I think I went straight to trying to find a club, trying to play in tournaments and find meetups.
Okay. A couple things. First of all, what year are we talking? Are we talking pre-Gotham chess?
Uh, I believe so. 2014?
Oh yeah. Okay. So this is way back. I didn't even know. Let's see. Yeah, I guess I was on YouTube in 2014, but it wasn't that big for chess back then, right?
No, it was like I said, it was pretty limited.
Okay.
But there was still stuff out there.
Okay. So you found what there was on YouTube. You found some books. I'm curious, what made you think like I should go to a chess club? Because if, like you said, it feels like most of the people I interview will be like, I'm about 2 years in. I haven't been to a chess club yet. I still don't feel confident enough. I'm thinking about it. Like, what made you be like, no, this is step one is to go to a chess club?
Yeah, I tend to like dive into any hobby or project. And so when I decided like chess was a thing, I was like, I need to do everything chess. And so
Mm.
yeah, I like started looking up and found that chess tournaments were a thing. I didn't really know that was a thing. I mean, I guess in high school, I just thought it was like a high school thing,
Yeah,
right?
I
But I
bet.
didn't know bigger tournaments where like adults played was a thing. And so and I think maybe Magnus was rising. I don't know if he was already the world champion, but like it started to become more popular to non-chess players about like this guy that's like super good. And so that's just how I roll. Like I was like, all right, there's online stuff to do, but I know that I can go meet people in person and play. And I've always loved physical chess boards, like just
Mm.
moving the pieces. And I think that that's been like the common theme for me is like chess kind of doesn't count unless you're over the board
That's
moving
cool.
some wood.
Yeah, yeah, I hear that. That's nice. Okay. So what was your first experience like at the club? Was it a tournament or is it more just like a club where people got together and played?
I forget which one I went to first. I found a meetup that some guys just went to like a hotel bar and grill and they would just play in the evening, have dinner and play. I think their time control was 15 delay 5. So they were like a little more old school and
Yeah.
playing like more classical. They were all tournament players at one point. So I went there and did all right against them.
Hmm.
And but then I think almost at the same time, I was also trying to find like rated games. And there was at the time a brick and mortar place called Center 64 that had some really strong players. And so I went there, tried my hand at like a rated tournament and just got dominated because I mean, the average rating was like 1800 or higher.
My
And
goodness.
so I was like, okay, well, I
Wow.
need to practice more.
Okay. So you didn't leave that event being like, I'm terrible at chess, never again.
No, I mean I'm stubborn like that where I'm like I try to look at everything objectively. Like I saw the ratings, I understood like there's very little like there's no chance for me to beat these 1800 players right now
Hmm.
with this much experience. And so I knew that if I wanted to start beating them, I would have to like work my way up the rating ladder. And so I went and tried to find some lower rated tournaments,
Yeah.
which meant that I was going to have to play with a bunch of like beginner chess players.
Hmm.
So basically kids. And so like I went and found this like a effectively a scholastics tournament that they would play on Friday nights um in a McDonald's in a Walmart. And it was
What?
mostly kids. Right. I mean, yeah, they're just trying to find a space that would accommodate them. And
That's funny.
McDonald's and a Walmart on a Friday night was, I guess, not very popular. And so
Yeah.
they had a space. And so I was all right, I'll go there and find some lower rated chess players. And I did. But it was basically, me, a 31-year-old, and a bunch of elementary school kids. And so I was able to get a few points off of them, but I just couldn't do it. I was like Friday night in a McDonald's, in a Walmart was just a little too
Surrounded by little kids I don't know.
right.
Yeah, that would be a weird feeling. Okay. But so did that at least boost your confidence a bit? Like, okay, yeah, when I play people who are lower rated, I'll be fine. I just need to find this middle ground. I need to find an adult tournament with people, 800 to 1500.
Yeah, I mean, I knew that that needed to happen. That local tournament, those tournaments, or that local chess club, they had like pretty much just one huge section where everybody's playing each other up to experts. But I knew that there were these like quarterly hotel tournaments that had section ratings. And so like they had under 1300, under 1600. I'm like, okay, I need to get into those tournaments so that I can play some under 1300 players. And
Yeah.
that's what I did. I think after a few months, I ended up getting into one of those, and then I won that U1300 section and had like
Oh,
a
wow.
really big jump.
Okay. So let's talk about that period then. What were you doing between when you started at, like the 800 you were before and winning this event in a pretty short amount of time? I've heard, some general YouTube videos, some books. Can we get specific? Like, were you focusing on tactical work? Were you focusing on strategy, end games? Like, where were you focusing?
Let's see. I think I was focusing mostly on gameplay and post-game analysis.
Okay.
Because that was the thing that spoke to me the most was the like, yes, I could study openings, but I think even at 31, I was pretty much just kind of resigned to not being able to memorize lines of openings. And so I think I realized that pretty early on that like my strength is being able to just play over the board, play the position, whatever it is, analyze and just try to find the best move. And so I spent most of my time trying to find resources that would help me think through positions. So like Silman's Reassess Your Chess was helpful.
Mm-hmm.
And when I did watch YouTube videos, I wasn't spending too much time on openings. I was watching people play rapid games and explaining their thought process through those games.
Okay.
And I think that helped me improve my own game pretty quickly because then during any game, I was just thinking like, okay, what would these people be thinking and doing? Instead of trying to just focus on um, lines and lines of openings, which I think I tried and just failed it immediately.
Okay, so this is important for all of you out there who are spending 90% of your time doing opening lines on Chessable and not getting the rating results you want. Here's a beginner who, stepped in and did what people say you're supposed to do, not do openings and do the other things. All right, Mark, here's my question though. When you were playing, were you sort of going through Silman's checklist, or did you feel like just having having seen someone talk about strategy and imbalances that you just kind of absorb that rather than going through all of like, okay, his knight is better than my knight and my bishop is better? Like, did you go through it in that rigid of a manner, or was it just kind of like helpful information?
Not so rigid. I think it was just helpful information.
Okay.
Those little tidbits that I would pick up, I think those always stuck with me a lot more. And so I would spend time. I think what I thought was most useful is, doing post-game analysis with other people because
Yeah.
you know, you have all this time in your own brain, but it's better to get in other people's brains and hear what they're thinking, like what
Yeah.
were they thinking in the position and why was their thinking like superior to yours?
Hmm.
And so any any time that I could spend like hearing what other people were thinking through their games was like gold to me. Like that's
Gotcha.
exactly what I was looking for.
Okay. And would this be postmortems mostly at bigger tournaments?
Both just anywhere like I was saying at that local or like that weekly meetup, we would be playing longer games and then like after the game, we'd just say like, okay, where did I go wrong there?
Nice.
Um, and then you could watch other people's games, and when they were done, they'd talk through it, and you'd ask questions like, why didn't you do that? And then they explain
Okay.
like their thought process. And those guys, we would also do these, I guess they were like practice tournaments or at least practice games where we would play longer time controls
Hmm.
in preparation for a tournament. So I would say like, okay, hey guys, I'm gonna play in like the Lone Star tournament in a month. And so like a couple weeks before we get together on a weekend and have like a practice tournament where we do game 60 or game 45 just to get a solid game that we could analyze afterwards.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. Okay, so really trying to take seriously that tournaments are something different and really getting into that mindset of a longer game over the board. Yeah, that sounds great. Also, I
Yeah.
totally agree with this idea of hearing what other people think about the game. I have a friend now from the club. He's about 2000, and every chance I get, I'm like, "Hey, let's meet up and play some games." I don't care about the games. What I'm interested in is his thoughts after the game and why he
Right.
did what he did and where I went wrong. I find that to be incredibly useful. And I got to ask, I have to think that the McDonald's in the Walmart with the little kids, they weren't all eager to do postmortems, right? They were like, my game's done. I'm going to go play in the ball pit.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they were usually done with the game before the game ended sometimes.
I hear that. I hear that. I think one time I got a postmortem with a kid, and it was really good because that kid was, very focused and into the game. But every other time, the second the game ended, the kid was just gone running with their other friends. And I was like,
Yeah.
I think they would rather do that than spend more time with me. So I get it. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think the other thing that helped a lot is that I was trying to play as much over the board as possible. And
Mm.
I think that's where a lot of other adult improvers go wrong is they spend so much time in their books or online in 2D in their 2D world that when they get to a tournament, they're just not comfortable over the board. Like
Yeah.
I can see that people are not comfortable. They even admit they're like, yeah, I just once I'm over the board, it's like a different game because three-dimensional pieces. You're not over the board, like physically looking down at the board like you are online. And so I think that helped me a lot. It's just like I was always in front of a board every week. And that helped me be comfortable at tournaments.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's two things. I think it's both the 2D, 3D, and then it's also the learning how to regulate your emotions and all of that while at the board. And if you're just playing 2D, it's hard to imagine how different it is when you're across from a person, but it's just a very different experience. At least I feel the game very differently. And thankfully I've played enough over the board that I know that, and I know how to regulate myself, and I know stray thoughts are going to come in and how to shield them and be like, I don't need to think about my car problems right now. Like that's for later. Right now we're doing chess.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Do you find that to be the case as well when you're over the board? Do you feel the game a lot differently than when you're playing online?
Yeah, I think it's just a whole different beast. And one other reason is because online, I just will not play a long game online. Like it just doesn't feel it's online play is not as satisfying as over the board.
Hmm.
Unless it's like Blitz where that adrenaline rush is what you're kind of looking for, like
Right.
just really pre-moving and doing all that quick stuff. But when you're over the board playing a 2 hour, 3 hour game, it's like I just get like so into the board, like into the position, to the point where that night when I'm going to sleep, I can like close my eyes and I remember like all three games that I played that day because you're just spending all day thinking about those positions.
Yeah. I'm a little bit different than you in that it's funny because I don't always like I can't go through the games, but I feel a lot of the emotions I felt during the game, which is interesting. Where I'll like one position will keep coming back, and I can feel the pressure I felt in that position, and then I'm reflecting through the logic I have now of analyzing the position and being like, "You fool! There was no pressure. You made up the pressure." It's just I have a hard time letting all that go.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so it sounds like you're playing tons of over the board chess. Um, doing a lot of work. I haven't heard anything about tactics. Are you doing like some puzzle trainers? Are you getting books about tactics? Are you really immersing yourself in tactics?
Oh yeah, I guess I forgot to mention that. Like I'm huge into tactics. Like I'm definitely team tactics as far as how do you improve when you're first getting into it. Um and you say tactics, I think a lot of people don't understand when they're getting into it that what we mean is you need to learn different patterns in chess that will either win or lose a game.
Yeah.
Because when I'm playing these people that are like lower rated than me or like just barely lower rated than me, and they like ask for advice, I'm like, yeah, well, we just played a few games and you're just losing on tactics. Like
Mhm,
it's because I know a few more patterns than you do. And because of that, I was able to get an advantage and then just close, right? It's like
mhm.
it's not even that it's a pretty simple formula. Like you just the more patterns you know, the more tools you have over your opponent.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it extends beyond just tactics, right? It's like tactics are kind of the basic patterns, but then there's a lot of strategy patterns, right? About like in these
Mhm.
types of positions, this bishop here that optically looks good actually usually doesn't work out all that well. And a better spot is this weird looking spot. And then the
Mhm.
more times you see that pattern, you're like, okay. And that might not be a pattern that immediately wins a game as much as some of the more tactical ones, but it feels like that's like level two of the patterns. And then like grandmasters are way deeper, right? And the patterns they see are patterns we wouldn't even just like a pawn structure. Like, oh, you put your knight there in that pawn structure. Ah, I know that's a bad idea. Bad idea. And you're like, what? What? This seems like a fine square. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think you're totally right. I think this idea of jamming in as many patterns is what we're after. And so how did you do that? What was your approach to jamming in the patterns?
It was mostly those puzzle trainers, like
Okay.
either Lee Chess or Lee Chess is nice because it's all free, but I would pay for memberships on chess.com where I would get unlimited puzzles and I
Mhm.
would bounce in between there because I felt like they just had different puzzles.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, so if I had to summarize, it sounds like you went from like 1800 to 1300 by reading essentially a basic strategy book, whichever one it is for you to reassess your chess, hearing how other people think about the strategy as they're playing through positions, whether that be opponents, whether that be, videos of people doing it, doing a lot of tactics to get patterns and playing a lot of OTB so that you're really comfortable with actual tournament chess and taking that seriously. That tournament chess is a different thing necessarily than online. And so what if I care about playing well at tournaments, I should be practicing my over the board chess. Does that seem accurate to summarize to get to about 1300?
Yeah, that's a pretty good summary. I would say another approach that I had, or at least yeah, another thing that helped me in that beginning phase was I basically picked one player that I liked their style
Hmm.
and I tried to emulate them, which I think is not always something that adult improvers try to do. They try to piecemeal figure out how to like improve. But I think that if you pick like one player and try to play like them, that helps build you up as like a holistic chess player rather than just like, okay, I've just been studying a bunch of different things and then you have to like pull it all together. I picked one person, I picked Simon Williams, and if I just tried to play like him, if I thought like what would Simon Williams do, that helped me like think and improve like in a very like in a packaged way rather than just like a bunch of a la carte ways of
Hmm.
improving.
That's interesting. So let's talk about how that would work. So when you think of how to play like Simon Williams, what does your list look like?
Um, a lot of attacking chess. He definitely prioritizes like activity over material.
Yeah.
Um, he plays the fun moves. Like I think that's probably why I'm still in the 1700 range is like
Hmm.
I have this uh propensity to like just pick the more fun move. Like, yeah, I know that that move looks nice and solid, but that looks way more fun. And I think I got that from Simon.
Okay.
Um, Actually, I think the height of my chess career was I was playing somebody online and they said, "You play like Simon Williams." And I was like, I can retire now because that's like the best compliment I could have ever gotten.
Nice. And so like when you're in a game and you're like going to make a move and you can just win that pawn or develop a piece with pressure, which leads to another one, you're like, what would Simon Williams do? We know he would develop
Yeah.
the piece and pressure that king.
Yeah, exactly. Like when I'm streaming, people are always in the chat like, you could have gotten that bishop, you could have gotten that knight. And I'm like, yeah, but I got the king, which was a lot more important.
Yeah. Okay. So how did you then develop that? Like, did you watch a bunch of his videos? Did you read his books and courses? Like, what got you to understand how Simon Williams plays?
Actually, it basically just what you said. He he's unique in that he's one of the few players that like will play a rapid game and talk through his thought process in
Mm,
in a specifically instructive way. Because you get a lot of streamers and people online, they'll say a couple things here and there, but throughout the whole game, he started he had the whole series where he would like really instructively give you information. And that helped me tremendously.
okay. So it helped you
And
both
then
get general information and then really specifics on how he would process a position, and then so you could process it like that.
yeah,
Okay.
I also I picked up his repertoire just because like I said, I thought this was the easiest thing to do, just do everything he did. And so I picked up his repertoire. It also worked out that he has a repertoire that like you use the same ideas for both sides, which helped
Mm,
kind of like expedite my theory in both sides,
hmm.
black and white. And he also plays a lot of lines that are they're not as well played, like not as well known. And so pretty quickly I can get people out of their preparation
Yeah.
and into my preparation. And I think that that's a big advantage.
Yeah, that makes sense. So it's really emulating a player all the way, their
Yeah.
mindset, their openings. So you said you didn't really do opening theory early on. When did you start trying to emulate his opening theory?
Um, well, I mean, I wouldn't say that I 100% avoided opening theory.
Hmm.
I learned enough. Like I got a couple of his books and watched a couple of his um, videos. I learned enough to get some ideas from each opening. Like
Gotcha.
I knew a few ideas in the Dutch and a few ideas in like the King's Gambit. Um, but I didn't know them like 20 lines deep or anything like that.
Right. Got it. So your goal wasn't memorizing theory, it was more getting the first couple of moves, understanding the plans and ideas of
Yeah.
these openings. Okay.
It's always plans and ideas that stick with me.
Yeah, I can understand that. I feel similarly. Okay, so this is pretty fascinating. You've got a player you're emulating. You've got the basics. I haven't heard anything about end games yet. Have you just been like, I'm only 1300. I'm not doing end games, or did those kind of sneak in there, maybe through watching people's rapid games, picking up some stuff there?
Well, my approach is I'm either going to win or lose in the middle game, and I'm
Okay.
just never going to spend time learning end games. So,
Okay.
I mean, that's my approach. I've tried to study a couple end games. I'm pretty sure I bought an end game chessable course. I
Hmm.
even have like a couple end game books, but I have I don't think I've even cracked them open them at all. So,
Yeah. But you own them. That's all you need with end games, right?
yeah.
You just sleep on them. You'll pick up a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fair. Um, all right, so that got you to like 1300. It seems like a pretty big jump from, 1300 to the like 16, 1700 range. Those players tend to be, very experienced, good chess players. How did you jump those next 400 points? Is it the same process, just getting better at it?
Yeah, I think just the same process. You just gotta stick with it. Um, and something that I think people don't talk about enough is that like my improvement of like knowing chess and like what to do and all of that stuff, that's that's always improving, that's always increasing. But the rating is like, remember, that's like a measure of your worst moves, but it's also a measure of being able to beat people, like
Mhm.
being able to actually win. And when I was starting off, I didn't really have any, I wasn't afraid to lose and I wasn't afraid to take risks. And I think that helped the rating gain considerably. Because, like, your typical adult improver, they're probably a little more timid, a little more likely to, like, maybe go for a draw.
Mhm.
Um, and when that happens, if you play like that in tournaments, you're not going to get rating increases that are very, like, notable. You have to like win. You have to like win a section. You have to get 4 out of 5. You have to really be getting those points. And that doesn't happen unless you're like taking big risks.
Hmm. Okay. I definitely agree with the idea that like the competition piece is a big part of winning, right? It's not just like I know some stuff, but it's like I have to be able to show it at the board and win. I haven't I don't know. I'm not a big take all the big risks guy, Mark, and maybe that's why my rating isn't going up that quickly. I don't know. I think while you might emulate Simon Williams, I think I'm trying to emulate like Karpov, right?
Yeah.
Like we'll slowly grind them down, and sometimes it's a draw, and it's okay. But yeah, yours sounds more fun and exciting though. I play the boring move, you play the fun move.
Well, I have since I've gotten a little bit older and like more with less energy, like I'll find myself in a tournament and I'm like a lot more satisfied, a lot easily satisfied with like just getting a draw and I won't take some of those bigger risks because it takes a lot of energy. Like it's draining to play a 4 hour game and then in that fourth hour go for it, right?
Yeah.
And so I remember when my rating like started to go down a little bit or like my increases started to level off is because like I just wasn't going for those huge rating gains anymore, like those positions where you win.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Do you feel like that has caused you to plateau where you are, or do you feel like you're not at a plateau and you're still rising?
Um, I mean, I think by design, it's you're going to plateau if you don't take those risks. Like I think
Yeah.
you need to in order to win, and in order to like take other people's rating points, because that's all ratings is. Like you're
Yeah.
just trading points.
Yeah.
And if you're gonna go for the more solid draws, then you're just gonna stay where you are.
Gotcha. So have you thought about like, okay, all right, wait. If the reason I'm not gaining rating points is because I'm less willing to take the chances in the fourth hour, what I need to do is train in such a way where I'm ready to take chances in the fourth hour, right? Like, I don't know, run laps for 3 hours and then play a chess game and you're tired and you don't want to. I don't know what that training regimen would look like.
Yeah, I mean that's definitely helpful is to be like physically ready to go for a whole day of chess. For me, a lot of times it's more of like just I when it comes to spending your time on the weekend, I just like I get caught up in like thinking about what else I'm gonna do the next day or like what should I be doing instead of sitting here playing chess.
Yes, it's the
And
hardest one.
that all that stuff is very distracting.
Yeah, that's definitely the hardest one. When I'm in a game where I'm losing and it's like 2 hours into a losing position, a lot of thoughts start coming in like, why do you even do this? Like, you could be doing anything right now, but instead you are intentionally suffering. Just resign and go have fun. Forget this. It becomes
Yeah.
really hard to shut all those thoughts out. Okay, so you get to like 1700. When did you reach your highest rating?
Right before the pandemic, I believe.
Ah, okay. And so what did you do during the pandemic? A lot of people like studied 24 hours and came out of the cocoon like a butterfly. It sounds like maybe you didn't take that approach.
I was on the losing end of the chess improvement during the pandemic. Like with I had like my daughter was in pre-K, so
Mm,
trying to do homeschool in pre-K wasn't really a thing. It
yeah.
was just like a incredibly stressful time because like work, there was like a lot more work to do because of the pandemic,
Mm.
and because of what I do for my job. And so I did way less chess. And so then everybody else did way more chess. And so when we started coming back and playing rated games, my my rating just dropped probably 100 points.
Gotcha. Did you feel like could you feel that people were stronger post pandemic?
Oh yeah, definitely. And there is a lot of people that were, it wasn't the same people that I was playing before that are stronger. It was all these new people that are underrated.
Hmm.
And I'm sure, like on all the podcasts, all that rating inflation or rating deflation, all
Hmm.
of those things, when I heard that podcast, I'm like, oh yeah, that really, that's what happened to me.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I came in this second time around during the pandemic. So I didn't feel that immediate change. For me, it was more the change from like the early 2000s when, that's what I was reflecting. I was like, my goodness, people are stronger now than they were in the
Yeah.
early 2000s, at least, at that club level. In the early 2000s, I mean, I would play at 1000 and they barely knew how to play chess. Now a
Yeah.
1000 is a very good chess player who, like you
Hmm.
said, their worst moves are just worse and more common, but they're
Hmm.
still usually quite a good chess player at 1000. Okay, so I guess the question is this. You had all this rating increase, the pandemic hits, you come back, your strength didn't elevate at the same level at the same rate as other people, so your rating drops a little bit. Are you thinking like it's time for me to retire from chess? This just isn't going to work out. Like, what is your mindset then when you encounter this difficulty?
Well, I think before that happened, my mindset had shifted some already. I think in 2017, 2018, what I found also satisfying was more than just trying to improve myself, was trying to grow chess in my city.
Mm,
And so just doing things to help out, like um, working with the tournament director to maybe promote events with my local club, or my local meetup. I think I jumped online and I started an Instagram account because what I thought was a gap at the time was that if I wanted to find Houston chess stuff online or events online, you just couldn't find it. You had to find like some super outdated list of like
yep.
chess clubs, hope that it was still up to date. And so I went online, I started an Instagram account, HTX Chess, with the intention of like anything that I go to over the board, I'll take pictures of it and like post of where this happened so that people can like just run into it and find out like, oh, there's actually chess things going on in Houston. And so that's been very successful because people run into that account and they'll message me and they'll be like, I live in this part of Houston. Where can I go play chess? Or, hey, I'm in town visiting Houston. Where can I find some chess games? And so I've used that to help connect people to different chess things going on.
Nice. So for you, it's not just trying to get that magical number to go up a little bit, but it's to increase everyone's access to over the board chess, which you love so much.
Yeah, definitely. I think when which also helps, I think, my improvement. Like the more chess players there are, the more opponents I have, and the more practice I get. And then like I think I'm just helping to grow the demand and the supply, and it's like everything does benefit me long term. But I felt like it was one of those things that I was like uniquely positioned to contribute and help because I wasn't going to be helping by running workshops or simuls or anything like that.
Hmm.
And I wasn't really like quite ready to. be a TD and run huge tournaments, but I can help out on social media. I can connect people and build the presence of Houston chess online.
That's cool. Have you thought about moving into the TD arena at all?
A little bit. I think I got like my, that little TD certification you can get online, but it's a lot. It's kind of a big commitment for me to like, spend a whole weekend running a tournament.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily want to be the person in charge at a tournament either. That's not like a fun thing for me. And so I've been more of like a just help out at a tournament, like maybe just help, I don't know, help the organizer somehow.
That's cool. That sounds like fun.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I guess my question for you then is what are your goals right now in chess? It sounds like you've become pretty fine with the idea that it's not all about ratings. So do you have any ratings goals or are you just pushing those aside and saying my goals lie elsewhere?
Yeah, I really don't have any ratings goals whatsoever. I do still want to play in chess tournaments. Um, because I think they're still fun, but I just want to do that to play chess. Like if my ratings go up, then great. Of course I want them to go up, but I'm not tying my identity, my chess identity to my rating. It's more like I'd rather tie it to other things like growing the community and
Mhm.
helping other people out somehow.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds like a really healthy place to be. I try very much to say things like that. And then when my rating goes up, I'm like, yes.
Yeah, I mean
So,
you can definitely you can definitely celebrate ratings gains, and I'm sad if my rating goes down, but it's just not everything. Like
yeah.
it doesn't bother me for 1 or 2 weeks. Like that, back in the day when I was really trying to play in these tournaments, you'd have a loss and it would just sit with you for a long time. And these days, like the loss will sit with me that night and I'll wake up and be totally fine the next morning.
Yeah, I think I found a similar spot. I have to share this story because it was so challenging. I
Yeah.
played this kid on Wednesday for our weekly over the board game. He was gone from like 1,000 to 1,800 in about 2 months. He's very
Wow.
talented junior. He beat me last time, and this time I knew he's a tactical beast. So I steered it into a very positional game. I played really well. He had a backwards pawn. I was piling on it. He was defending it. He had no chances. I thought I was pushing when I put it in the computer. The computer's like, no, it's a draw. He can hold that easy. But still, if anyone was pushing, it was me. And then as we get near to the end of the game, there's still heavy pieces on the board, but nothing's happening. I'm just trying to make stuff happen. I see out of the corner of my eye, my daughter is playing, and she was crushing this other kid and I see the tournament director moving all the pieces around on the board. And I'm like, what the heck is happening? So I get up and I look at the board and she's suddenly down a queen. And I was like, wait, she was going in for checkmate. And now the game has been rewound like 12 moves and she's down a queen. And so I went and talked to the director and he explained, like, well, there was an illegal move back there. And so we had to rewind to that exact spot where the guy could save his queen. And so I sit down at my board and I realize I'm spending about 3% of my energy on my actual game. The rest of my energy is like, well, my daughter doesn't even write down the moves correctly. Did they rewind to an incorrect spot? And I'm worrying about all this
Man.
stuff. And I'm like, my game's a draw anyway. And I just make this move. And he just goes, boom, double attack, check your king, win your piece, game over. And I was just like, wait,
Uh,
what? Did that really just happen? And boy, that one I had a hard time letting go because I was like, there was no chance I could lose this game. If I had given it even 50% of my concentration, I would have been fine. And that one was really hard. But even that one, I was able to, like you said, when I went to bed, I was like, all right, I can't do anything about that. That game is done. All I can do is plow forward. So I'm trying my best, my friend. I'm trying my best.
Man, that's heartbreaking.
Yeah, that was it was a hard one. The best part is my daughter was just kind of like, yeah, yeah, that seemed a bit unfair, but what are you gonna do? And I was like, what? You're handling this so well. I would have been flipping out.
How old is she?
She is 9. She's a very mature 9-year-old. She is not attached to her rating. She just enjoys playing chess. And if she wins, that's great. And if she loses, that's part of chess. So she is way more mature than I am about her chess. It's very
That's
impressive.
awesome.
Yeah. It's funny because there's a little part of me that's like, no, you should be angrier. But then I'm like, nope, nope. This is probably good, actually. This is probably a good thing. Okay. Do you have any thoughts of like, all right, what I've been doing is working great up till now. It's time to come up with a new approach to improvement. I want to like double down and get a coach and really go after it. Or are you kind of like, this plan is what I want to do and this is where I'm at?
I mean, if I wanted, let's say I really wanted to improve, like I wanted my rating to really go up, I would get a coach because, like I said, any sort of interaction with other people is like the thing I'm looking for. Having
Mhm.
a coach, it's just so much more efficient. Having somebody who knows what they're doing,
Yeah.
look at your games, work through all of your weaknesses, and just because they'll be able to diagnose and give you a solution or at least like a plan way more effectively than you trying to do it on your own. So
Yeah.
I would definitely get a coach if I wanted to really improve.
Okay. That makes sense. But you're at a
Yeah.
point where you're kind of like, if I improve, that's great. If not, I'm just enjoying being in the chess world and helping it grow.
Yes.
Okay.
Enjoying it way more than when I was playing for rating points.
Okay. I think that is a fascinating take that you don't have to be all in on improvement.
Hmm.
It's something that I think a lot of the listeners of the show will be like, Mark, I hear you and I disagree with you. But I think it's a place where we all kind of have to end up eventually, right? Like there's going to
Hmm.
be times in your life where your career or your family takes over to the point where it's like, it's obvious right now, I'm not going to be able to gain rating. I need to find another way to just enjoy chess. Or maybe you reach an age where you're having a harder time and you can't think quite as clearly. I'm worried about that for myself. I'm now in my 50s. Like, is there going to be a wall that slams down someday and is like you can't think as deeply as you used to about this stuff? So we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see. I appreciate your I'm gonna call it your Zen approach there, Mark. We're gonna call it the Zen
Mhm.
approach. I don't know if that's correct.
Works for me.
All right. Well, as we head out today, where can people get hold of you? It sounds like you have a great YouTube channel going, an Instagram account. You want to share those with us?
Yeah, if you look up HTX Chess, it's short for Houston, Texas. You can find me on Instagram or I'm even on TikTok if that's you. I found that TikTok is like a whole other audience that are probably not listening to this podcast, but I've actually spent some time over there on TikTok because I think growing the sport over there is like worth doing.
Okay. My daughter always gets angry with me because I always say like, "Oh, all TikTok is like dancing videos." So I assume you're dancing and playing chess and talking about Houston.
Not quite.
Not quite. Okay, okay. I've been told that TikTok is like every other social media and there's a wide variety of things on
Yep,
there.
it is.
Okay. Well, thanks so much for coming on the podcast, Mark. I appreciate both the vast amounts of improvement advice you gave us, and then also the advice that you know what, you could just have fun playing chess. Like you could just go to a meetup with people and have a great time playing over the board chess. So thanks so much for coming on today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Enjoyed your podcast.
All right. So for all of you out there, if this is the week where you gain all your ratings points, that's great. That's awesome. If not, maybe you're struggling. Come back next week. We'll have some more advice, or maybe just don't worry about ratings. Just have fun playing chess. All right. I'll see you about next week, everybody. Goodbye.